Okay, it is 6:35 p.m. Welcome to the September 24th, 2025 Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commissioners, city staff, and members of the public participating at the Arlaga Family Recreation Center in accordance with public health guidelines for in-person meetings and members of the public participating remotely. I would like to first introduce the commissioners and staff present. We have Commissioner Kevin Dawkins, Vice Chair Joseph Grass, myself, Juan Min Lee, Commissioner Michelle Sherman. And then in terms of staff, we have Library and Community Services Assistant Director Nick Shegda, Library and Community Services Supervisor Tricia Mullen, and Management Analyst Ashley Walker. Ashley will be helping facilitate the meeting today. Ashley, will you please take a moment to provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair. For members of the public who are attending this meeting virtually and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, please press *9 to raise your virtual hand. For members of the public attending in person, there are speaker cards available on the table. Please complete one and turn it in to staff before public comment is called on the item you wish to speak on. If there are a large number of public commenters, the time limit may be adjusted by the chair in order to allow everyone a chance to comment. When your turn for public comment has arrived, staff will unmute you. With that, I'll turn it back to the chair.
Okay. Under public comment, the public may address the commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. The commission cannot act on any items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, the commission cannot respond to non-agenda items brought up in your public comment other than to provide general information. Here's one quick note. Commissioner Youngbound Chattanooga District Chair as well. Our first item today is item D1, presentation from the Friends of Bedwell Bayfront Park.
Thank you. I'm Alan Bedwell. I'll start things off and just I want to express appreciation on behalf of the Friends for your time tonight, commissioners. I'm a former Menlo Park City Commission member myself, and appreciate how much effort goes into this. We'll try to keep things not very controversial, like when I was on the Environmental Quality Commission and heritage trees would show up. That's where it needs to be credited. Let me start out by first just introducing ourselves. We've got leadership here for Friends of Bedwell Bayfront Park. Chris McIntosh, who's actually the founder of the Friends, from way back before the park was named after my father, former city manager of Menlo Park, Mike Bedwell, started Steel. And then myself, Alan Bedwell. And we're delighted to share with you our approach, our thinking about the park, what we value, and really enter into a discussion with the commission, as we have with your city staff on some of the things that we think are important about the park and some of the things that we think we'd love to see the city implemented from the standpoint of helping protect the park's passive recreational use designation and also maintain it as open space. That said, I'll jump right into who the organization is and what we do. First of all, tonight, what we'll do is really just start out by giving a little bit of background on the Friends. Secondly, also share with you the fact that the park is so much loved and valued as a unique open space and passive recreational area that, in fact, there are some aspects of the park that are in need of attention because of that use. And then thirdly, just share with you some of the priorities that the Friends have for implementation of aspects of the master plan that was done a few years ago, as well as some of the things that we think can be done outside the CIP and more focused just with regular operating income, some minor things that we think could have a huge benefit. Moving on to the next slide, the Friends originated from an effort to prevent a golf course being built on a park or over parks and back in, Chris, what was it again?
It was 2005.
2005. And this group of activists actually spearheaded an effort to prevent the park from being developed at a time when it was had been operational for about a decade or so as open space, and was finally being used by the public in a great and passive recreational use type of way. Our guiding principles for the Friends, it really is focused on the original sort of establishment of the park and why it was established. First of all, we view ourselves as an advocacy organization, we provide stewardship of the park. We'll talk a little bit about what that means in terms of the things that we do day to day to support the park. Secondly, also providing protection of the park, just in terms of protecting the mission of the park being a passive recreational use open space area that is truly unique in this part of the bay. Also, as I mentioned too, with passive recreation, open space being a priority of ours, we really want to advocate protection of those values and actually enhancement of those values as people use the park. And finally, just engage in the community. The Friends is actually a group that's networked with other groups in the region that are either oriented towards wildlife preservation, birding, or a number of other aspects related to the San Francisco Bay restoration and protection of the natural environment, as well as community open space. Let me turn things over to Chris, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the details of the park and what's unique.
Mission.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so, excuse me, but yeah, slides up there. Glasses on, okay. So this is our mission, to enhance unique open space available Bayfront Park and promote it regionally now and well into the future. It's unique and it is a regional resource. So, you know, and our guiding principles are stewardships, protecting it, the passive recreation aspect, which voters back in 2006, I think, said no golf course, but something this. It's open space, and I've heard so many people say the value of that. And then, of course, the community. It's a community resource. So many groups and individuals in the community, both Menlo Park and surrounding, use it and love it. Next one. How do we do it?
Sure.
Oh, we're doing it, sorry. And then this is just a little timeline, going all the way back to when the landfill opened in 57. Back when the bay was somewhere where it was a good place to put your garbage. And I'm sure I've met some of the older members of the community who say, oh yeah, my mattress is in there. And then in 1984, it became a park after the landfill closed. And was designated then as a regional open space, serving the various communities for whom it had been a regional landfill. I put in there the ranger service because back in that early part of the century, we actually had, it was California Land Management. They had some really good dedicated rangers there who really knew some of the natural history and enjoyed sharing that with the park, and I'm hoping that the SJCC will have a similar approach to it. Then of course, 2005, there was this somewhat misguided idea to monetize the park, golf course, playing fields, then lighted playing fields, all sorts of things there. And by over 60%, Friends collected signatures. Some of you who've been here for that long, you may remember that far back. And we got it on the ballot, and then over 60% of voters voted to not turn it into a golf course, keep it as open space. And then 3 years later, it was named in honor of the former city manager, Alan's father, who did a great deal to push to turn it into a park and who really loved the area. And that was there is in the back end, there's a gas to energy plant. Because of course the capped landfill produces methane. I'm sure if you've been to Shoreline, you can sort of sit on the mound there and all of a sudden you hear a little hiss going on next to you. I haven't experienced that in Bedwell, but there's all kinds of oddball little things popping up around which are related. The methane became a lot lower and less profitable, and we'll address that later. Then in 2017, there was a huge community outreach effort on the part of the city about creating a master plan for it, lots of input, lots of meetings, lots of open houses. And that got approved by council in 2017. And now we're up at 2025 and we've got a new ranger service coming in, which we're really optimistic about. Yep, that says it.
I can take this first one. I think I'd probably be preaching to the choir if I tried to talk about how special the Ghana Edwards Wildlife Refuge is. But what I really want to highlight that's so unique about the park is that it's a gateway to that space, and it's a gateway that's incredibly accessible to the community. You know, being able to drive 10, 15 minutes or even less and find yourself in this space where you feel like you're away from everything. You know, you see birds, you see coyotes, you see squirrels, you feel like you're really in nature. Is not something that's really easy to get, you know, unless you want to drive out some switchbacks into the hills. Like there is a lot of nature in California. One of the things I really love about here, but there isn't much that is quite as close and as immersive as Bedwell Bayfront Park is. And I think I just want to highlight how special that makes the space and how unique that is, even for us who are surrounded by a lot of nature in a lot of places.
And stepping out from the park itself and the surrounding refuge, we were a very important stop on the Pacific Flyway. Okay, that's a specialized term that probably a lot of you are going, well, I guess you talk about. There's for birds and migratory birds, there are north-south flyways up and down the country, and the Pacific Flyway, if you want to go to Canada and Alaska, where birds may go to breed because they've got lots of sunlight, long days and lots of bugs and flowers. And then when it gets cold and there's no food and there's no habitat because it's iced up, all the food's died off, then they migrate south to where there is food and safe habitat. Some of them obviously fly all the way down to South America, but a lot of the waterfowl, the geese, the shorebirds settle here. And that's why, as I'm sure you know, in winter you see lots of ducks, there are more geese, there are all kinds of shorebirds and they're here in winter because they have food and they have habitat. And so we often have flocks of western meadowlarks in the center of the park, those yellow guys with the black leaves. We used to have flocks of horned larks as well, but I haven't seen those in many years and they're a declining species in the state. So yes, we're important on the Pacific Flyway, that's international importance.
And finally, just from the standpoint of fitting into the rest of the world, the park actually played a pioneering role early on in the capture of methane. Before it was really known much that it was a significant contributor to climate change through the formation of greenhouse gases, which methane is. And we mentioned earlier that the park originally collected methane and used it to run regenerative engines, reciprocating engines that were removed back a few years ago. One of the things that's very important though is that the landfill, while it's not generating enough methane to cost effectively run these reciprocating engines, it's still generating methane. And so the CIP plan to basically redo the methane capture and then also the leachate capture, which is the stuff that leaks out of the landfill. Those are still very important capital improvement projects that should be done just from the standpoint of protecting not only our climate, but then also the water quality of the San Francisco Bay. As somebody who spent his entire career in climate change and also environmental regulation protection, small things like this actually add up considerably, as we all know. And so the parks role in the sort of larger picture of global climate change, water quality is still very important. And that's something that we also, as the Friends, really look towards and talk a lot about when we're interacting with people about the park.
Okay, so now onto some of what we've actually do and have done. There's a kiosk, as you enter the park, it's actually by the tidal pond on the right before you get to the hilly section. A lot of people do park there, but a lot of people go on to park in one of the paved parking lots. And actually, we're hoping at some point that it makes sense to put a similar kiosk in that mini parking lot by the restaurant, so those people could also read it. And we maintain this, we try to keep a large map of the park so people can say, where am I and where am I going? We used to put out the trifold pamphlets that you have, that I just passed out in your packets, in English and Spanish, and maintain boxes. But we've got now gone to putting QR codes for the English version and Spanish version up on the notice board, because almost everybody has a phone and it sure saves the trash and everything else. And then I try to rotate something about a natural history or seasonally or what's going on there. For example, recently I put up a piece about priorities. And just something interesting to keep people coming back. We also have useful information like the park hours and phone numbers if something happens. And based on some of the questions we were getting, I actually periodically put up a thing explaining what times are, because some people didn't understand why water was drained out of the slough at certain times and other times wasn't. So, kind of try to give people timely information, try to keep it informational. We in part not for a few years, well, COVID derailed everything. We used to participate in the coastal cleanup days, which we just had this past Saturday, and we had volunteers who captained a cleanup site at the park. It was a huge success because it brought in people who knew and loved the park and wanted to help there, or people maybe who visited the park, or just groups who wanted a site that they could bring their group to, be it a church or a school or a corporation. I put up some statistics there in 2019. We had 140 volunteers show up, a huge amount of families. And we got 150 pounds of trash and 50 pounds of recycling. That was probably a bit less than in the earlier years when the park had a lot more trash, but it's a really great place to do it, and that was a good activity. And we throughout the year at various times there are bird walks there. We collaborate with the San Mateo County Bird Alliance on leading walks. That used to be Sequoia Audubon Society. It's confused. We didn't get a new bird society, just renamed. And in past years, we've collaborated with Citizens Committee to Complete the Refuge and done birding walks around the perimeter there with their docents. I talked to you a little bit about Pacific Flyway, we tried to sort of explain that to park visitors, things like why the birds are here. And twice a year, there are bird counts, the Christmas bird count is done in December, and then there's a summer bird count that is done, including the park. I think there's two, it's a really important spot. There are 225 bird species, different bird species have been recorded there. I think about 150 species this year alone. It's in the top, what is it? It's about, there's over two, if you, eBird is this community science where people keep that list of what they've seen when they've done trips. There's over 2,000 eBird checklists for the park. It's in the top dozen hotspots to go birding in San Mateo County. So just, and there are a lot of other activities that love the park, and just from birding alone, it's very valued. And then again, when Menlo Park had its annual kite day, which I think was usually in early May at the park, where kids could come, you know, pay $5 or so something, and you got a soda, they got a cold drink and a kite to go fly. That was a big event. It was huge fun. And we would table there along with other city groups and organizations, and we really supported that.
Switching gears a bit now, just having talked to you a little bit about what the Friends does and sort of what we value about the park. We wanted to talk to you a bit about the master plan and some of the things that the Friends would like to see prioritized to support the use of the park as a passive recreational area and open space, and then also some of the operational improvements. This next slide here is sort of our top 3 or 4 things that we as Friends would like to see happen at the park related to implementation of some aspects of the master plan and then the implementation of some sort of newer approaches that have popped up since the master plan was completed. First of all, one of the big challenges we've got at the park that we've seen in the talk with city staff is what we call volunteer parking spaces, which is where people come in. There's so many people who are wanting to park. They're basically creating parking spaces. In this image here, down here, you can't really see it, but this is an area where people just basically pull off the gravel road and basically just going out in the grassy area. It's just turned into a mud pit. We've got a lot of those spots throughout the park, and especially a lot of those places are actually pretty close to waterways. Like for example, the slough. There's a whole section of parking that occurs on that sort of narrow neck as you drive out to the park, and along that path where people have just created and driven their cars sort of further and further off the pavement. And in some cases, they're less than 25 feet away from the water, if not closer. And we're concerned about, you know, obviously things going into the water there, as well as the other thing it does is it actually, in addition to impacting water quality, it also really creates congestion. And one of the things that we've talked to the city staff about, this is also part of the master plan, is moving the parking further inwards, where you can actually get traffic sort of out of that traffic jam area, that narrow sort of choke point a little bit further in the park. And actually what it also does is it delivers people more closely to where the interpretive exhibits are, the restrooms, as well, and just makes for much easier traffic and people flow. It also delivers people sort of the heart of the park as well. So we really support that. We don't have an idea what that cost is. Obviously, we're proposing this and we'd love to see what the capital improvement assessment is under today's dollars. Secondly, is improving the surface perimeter trail, surface of the perimeter trail. And this is the trail that goes around the edge of the park. And if you're ever out there, you'll see hundreds of people using it a day. And there are people out there with bikes. There are people out there with baby carriages. There are people trying to, you know, get through there if they have some type of permit. But it's something that, in the master plan, I think it was proposed to actually pave that trail. We'd actually recommend that you hard surface that trail in a porous way. That allows the water to actually sink in as opposed to running off. I know Sarah had an experience directly with this. I want her to share this in terms of her experience from the trail and
Yeah, this is actually really personal to me. About 4 months ago, I had a spine surgery for some pretty severe nerve and disc damage. And that means I have like intermittent weakness in my leg and numbness in my foot, which can be, it can make, especially walking on uneven paths, really, really difficult. And before this, now even I'm a super outdoorsy person. I love hiking. And so as I'm thinking about, what is my recovery process going to be, I started doing research and looking for somewhere where I could be outside during my physical therapy, which, long walks is definitely something that I'm supposed to be doing and trying to doing a lot of. It is extremely difficult in this area to find a long walk that is in nature and is flat. There's so many long walks that are hilly. But I'm starting to be able to walk hills now, but especially those first 3 months, it was out of the question for me. Which was really, really difficult. I wanted to be outside, I wanted to be active. This perimeter trail is the only one that I could actually find within 30 minutes, even maybe 45 minutes of me that is that, 2 miles-ish, it's flat. And, it's the perfect distance, it's the perfect location. You feel like you're immersed, you're outside and be active. So personally for me, and I know also for many people who want a more accessible route to, want to be outside, want to be able to move around and be on a flat path, this would make a really, really huge impact. And I think it's something that could really be meaningful to a lot of people, really meaningful to the community.
in our anecdotal observations, that's the most used trail there.
Yeah.
Because it's flat, because it's wide, allows for socializing, while you're walking. And in terms of improving the surface there's still plenty of the trails within the park that are dirt or gravel that are a little bit more natural, but this just provides good access for people that recreate, because of great mobility needs. They've got baby in a baby carriage, or they want to ride their bikes, or they've got some mobility challenges.
It also connects to the new Flyway Trail that comes over from Bayfront Expressway near the Yellow Bridge. And that was just opened last December, which is another way to connect to the park's perimeter trail.
Next is one that may not, it really depends on sort of what it entails, but it's maybe more a little bit of, maybe minor capital improvements, and that's interpretive improvements, just doing some more signage out there about what people are seeing, not only about the park, but sort of the surrounding area. There's that vista that has a great overview of the bay, and it has some good interpretive information about the surrounding area. There's also the interpretive signs in the main parking lot next to restrooms there. As a former park ranger who's an interpreter at Yosemite National Park, I can tell you there's so much value to just even having some basic information out there to really help people with experiencing a park. And there's just a variety of different things that can be done there that are very creative at relatively low cost. And then finally, the last thing that we're suggesting that would be a priority is install a walking path along the slough, which is basically on the west side of the park there. The reason for that is the salt flats there and everything else are such a unique aspect adjacent to the park. It can help sort of tie people in, recreators, tying them, their experience in with sort of the surrounding greater Bay Area. And it's actually not that far. You don't like on the perimeter trail, you have to walk way around to see where the rest of the bay is. And here it's sort of a closer view. So that's something that we recommend as well. So those are things that we'd love to see capital improvements. We think they're very modest. We think they support the passive recreational destination of the park and the open space nature. This next set of recommendations here are just what we think are some quick actions. And that is increasing the frequency of trash pickup. There's a lot of trash out there just because people are used to it. And oftentimes the trash cans are filled and, trash is going around. Plus, it can be both a hazard and attractive for wildlife. And that's something that's really important, to try to prevent. And it just also improves the park experience too. Also, we really, are advocating increased wildlife awareness. When we're out there with the city staff, we saw a coyote take out 2 ground squirrels. Very effective hunting pattern, but, one of the things is that, as we're all seeing like on next door and everywhere else, people are very anxious about coyotes, and really what it is a chance to educate people about how to behave around, wildlife like that. As we've seen, actually, while we were out there with the park staff, we saw, or city staff, we saw some people not be very smart around the coyotes. So too, with, just protecting wildlife in general, and that means, just more information about making sure that people are keeping their dogs on leashes. And that can be enforced. Hopefully that's something that the rangers can do depending on what the contract allows for in terms of what their roles and responsibilities are. And then finally, also highlighting not feeding the cats, the feral cats that are out there, or ducks. Too, those are all things that are sort of basic that surprisingly not a lot of people know now.
And preferably don't dump your rabbits, your ducks, your turkeys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rabbits are hard to catch. So sure.
If you go back just for one second, I just want to see, I think there was something else. Oh, just ranger education. This is something that the Friends would love to support in terms of educating their ranger force, just, as we come on board, just having to do some sessions with them, but very importantly, the city should try to educate that workforce about the park, unique aspects, some of the basic codes that are required for, use of a park like this. But also too, one of the things is these people will be sort of the first point of interaction of education and enjoyment for people in the park if they're going to interact with somebody from the city. So that's our suggestion. Now finally, we'll turn things over to somebody to bring a smile on your face, Chris.
I just thought I'd throw this in because they're really bugging out you, see you're smiling. And we have had them at the park. They used to come in most winters, we'd have one, sometimes two, and people were pretty excited, and even, regular visitors would post somewhere like, oh, so I think the last record I know of, there were 2 sightings at different ends of 2023, so fairly recently. We do only get the wintering ones. We haven't, when the park was opened, I believe they actually had some artificial burrows and things, and there may still be a sign that says burrowing owl nesting area. I haven't seen a burrowing owl there for many years. They've gone elsewhere, but then now there are wintering species, and it's great habitat, provided there are, the dogs are on leash and, they're left to manage it. And with now the ground squirrels are back, we've got lots of those, that's what a ground squirrel wants. I mean, a burrowing owl wants ground squirrel burrow. So anyway, I have a few marked sites on the map, you can't really see it.
Just wrapping things up, with our presentation to you. We're very interested in working with the city. We are an advocacy organization, so we do advocate on behalf of the park, but it just to you as commissioners, I just have to commend the city staff and the discussions that we've had on a visit out there, as well as just ongoing discussions. Really appreciate the approach that the city is taking towards this very valuable and unique open space that is becoming increasingly rare in this area. And so we're very interested in having alignment on a shared vision for the park and educating about that, and really also supporting community events associated with the park. Kite Day mentioned that as a fantastic way, not only to educate people about the city, enable people to enjoy the park, but also learn about city programs, and frankly also just experience the park and city staff in a neat way. We are advocates of that passive recreation use, that is something that is absolutely primary for our partners. But we do want to not only partner with the city, but also some of the local organizations, continue that partnership and build it, like some of the groups that Chris and I have mentioned earlier this evening. And one that also is just based upon good communication, not that we have to agree all the time, but just having open constructive communications we've had with the staff has just been fantastic, and we'd like to continue that. So thank you very much for your patience and interest in listening to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. I guess we're just, I have many questions and comments, but if we could take a moment. Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any public comments for item T1? No public comment.
Thank you. With that, public comment is closed. Anyone want to leave with a comment or question?
Yeah, but, okay. So, yeah, thanks Ken for your presentation. A couple questions about just the improvements, just to dive in. So for personal experience, I've walked around that flat trail. Actually, I had a fusion surgery myself. I know exactly.
You get it.
I use the exact same flat spot myself until I do hills. Now I'll go to the park, I bring my waterproof boots because it's kind of sloppy out there. So, and I kind of wanted to check with staff. I don't know if you discussed what kind of service. I know there's something called like recycled concrete aggregate.
Yeah, like a fresh rock.
Yeah, exactly.
Rock, and it would be something that we would have to discuss with the public works team about what's most appropriate and both for what will last longest and what will be least maintenance over the years. But it is in the master plan, so I do think it's appropriate to sort of we're 8 years into the master plan now at this point to sort of start bringing these up. I think in general, from my discussions with the public works team, they've been concentrated on some of the flood control with the Atherton Channel, the work around that flood control right at the park entrance. And then there's supposed to be some improvements to the physical improvements to the entryway to improve the park entrance for visitors. So I don't know whether they've been kind of like holding off on some of these things further into the park until they do those or not. But it's something we can ask them about and maybe ask them if they come to a future PRC meeting and talk to the commission about it.
One thing I forgot to mention is there is some additional funding for implementation of the action plan. It was $1 million donated by Meta back, I believe, 2017 as part of the development agreement in the Willow Village. And then also as part of the Bohannon Gateway project, it's about $400,000 for infrastructure improvement associated with the entrance. So we can provide more information on that. I apologize. You mean to interrupt the discussion, but that's an important. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, just jumping ahead, I'd love to hear from staff. You've had a tour of the park, and I'd just like to hear an overview, city staff, of what improvements they've been considering, where things are, but park, and have that heard of Parks and Rec.
For me, it was, the tour was really kind of just an opportunity. I had been there a couple times. Harrison and I went once. It was a great opportunity to go out with the friends and hear from their perspective, like what they envision the space to continue to be and what it is and how it's welcoming people. So really in the way of like the priorities and what's in the master plan, there wasn't, for me, a lot of things that kind of popped out. It was just more informational and introductory. I do know that our public works is, looking at those things. So, and I imagine that they'll be coming back to provide additional information.
Great.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And a couple other questions. So I don't mean to monopolize time, but I've got lots of questions. So who uses the park? And how do we measure that? Because I don't know that we've ever been able to, we've had really good surveys run by staff, but it seems like when I go there during the day, there's a lot of people from Meta there, which is great. But I'm not sure if the other city's aware.
I'm gonna take that one. It's changing because from, when I got involved 20 years ago, we didn't have, the Anton apartment complexes, those things, the Beaver Island complexes weren't there, the Yellow Bridge wasn't there. And it was and still is, to me, one of the most diverse park users. If I go to Baylands down in Palo Alto or Mountain View, it's primarily kind of feels like it's more well-off, well-educated, the Silicon Valley community using that, even though it's also trails along the bay of the salt ponds. Here, it's a lot of, I hear Spanish, I hear other languages. I see, the other day, I was there and some guy was fishing in that low tide and floods through. And he was like, oh, I just got off work, I'm here to relax. And so it's socioeconomically, it's way more diverse than most other places I've been, and I think that's a real strength. It's good, it's close to some of the lower income areas, and then of course you've got the way more well-off people. You've got Meta, who apparently, since they're running club there, because one of the workers was complaining about people going up now closed section at North End towards the water plant. He said, oh, I had to turn back 100 people in this Meta running club. He's like, great. And a lot of schools use it for events. There's a lot of events there, but there's a lot of
The Scouts.
scouts. There's a lot of after work people. It's funny, it's like a lot of parks around here. It has shifts.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think from the staff point of view, we're hoping that the new contract with the new ranger service will give us some insight into that and ask them to distribute some brochures and informational items to park attendees, but also to kind of maybe do a survey, maybe keep count, at least sort of a sampling count, not counting every single person that they come in. So that we can find out who's parking, what they want.
My best guess, and this is anecdotal, so grain of salt, but I think that probably the only demographic that's truly missing are people with strollers or who need accessibility. Cause I go at a lot of random times of the day and feel like I see pretty much every other demographic.
So yeah, I'd be curious to get feedback from the rangers, just, for parking is the other issue brought up, like how much parking pressure there is. And, we want to be mindful of, you take away the spots where, I'm sure that people are parking where they're not supposed to just because of overflow.
Yes.
And,
And the nutrition, I've already talked about this, but some of the, I'm sorry, if I'm busting, then I should tell.
all right.
That when, especially when you have these big events, they take up a lot of parking. There was a problem, I hope it's over now, when they were doing the Bayfront Canal, the workers would park there along the slope. And unfortunately, they weren't just there for a couple of hours, that was 8 hours a day. So there's a lot of parking pressure there.
There are challenges.
It's also, I think I biked there once or twice. And I'll tell you, getting over 101 at Marsh Road, that is hard.
Yeah, just to add, there are times when there are events, and that's really when the parking is sort of out of control. And there might be a situation where if the events are permitted, that they're anticipating a certain amount of turnout, they're providing some form of shuttle service or something that gets people, coming from a satellite parking area into the park. That's very difficult to manage and control, but it's something that might help a bit, especially if these events are on weekends and things like that.
Yeah, so that was another question on is like, how do you get to the park, not just driving, but trails, getting over Marsh Road is really difficult. So that's another thing I'd like to, explore, to just make it more accessible to people in the community, to just walk there.
Yeah, I think on the north side of Bayfront Expressway, not too bad. And I know when Citizen M Hotel was open, and after it, they actually, saw the park as an amenity for their guests. And I imagine that the apartment buildings do the same. But yeah, we're still car centric.
Yeah, I actually live very close, I'm a District 1 resident and used to park frequently and I've seen all the issues that you guys just mentioned. So to me, like parking is a #1 issue. I've seen, people park anywhere, even in non-overflow situations. I think they're maybe abandoned cars or, I don't know, people just taking naps there, which is
Yeah.
totally fine, but like it kind of affects the experience, so. If the city, I think one thing I would encourage the city to do is create another official parking section, because even across the road from the existing parking section, there's some dirt where people park as well, or across from the bathroom, so.
Yeah, that's what we that started out as, I can remember when that was shrubs.
Yeah, and I think the idea is to not have parking there because it's so close to the water, as you guys mentioned, right? And have a separate parking lot further
Yes.
inward. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, sort of north of the,
And I think Nick was part of the meeting that talked about that. Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful that we have the variety of people that use the park, but it does mean that we have people who don't totally understand this close to bay thing. I mean, it's been a long time, but it was one time where a guy was in that parking lot you're talking about. Close in, and Alan was generous when he said 25 foot water, I had more like 10 or 15 foot. Put up, working on his car engine.
I've seen that, yeah.
I had to do my top of that. And you see the ambulance, you're right, people love the park, the ambulance drivers come in and take a nap there and. While they're waiting for a call or something, like you say.
Yeah, so I guess the greater, like, just a question stepping back, density has increased tremendously. As you said, new hotel opened. We have massive apartment complexes that have recently opened by the new Snowflake property. So I know this is intended as a passive recreation element, but how can, we also wanna encourage people to go there as much as they can, or correct? So adding a new parking lot will help that. The new gate, just, making that entranceway, cleaning that up with signage and all of that, but. What else can we do? And I guess from personal experience, having more shade in the park would be tremendous, especially during summer. But I don't know how we could create that artificially, that makes any sense, but.
That's an interesting aspect,
I actually really think the perimeter trail would make that big difference, because I think from the groups that I see going there, some people are going there for their exercise, they wanna run or they wanna walk. And that group will increase if that trail becomes more accessible, paved.
Can you clarify the perimeter trail? Do you mean like that parking lot road having a trail?
It goes around the whole outside of the park, so basically it kind of traces the water, so it's a 2 mile loop.
You can bring up the map that was near.
It's in
there.
It's in the brochure, so the brochures are tucked inside the spirit guide.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Guide to the spirit guide.
the spirit path, I think, is another one, if that's a little more.
So it's in this brochure.
Yeah,
It's in this
yeah,
brochure.
okay, I kind of see it, yeah.
Yeah, it's right down by the water along the
Yeah.
edge of the park.
Beautiful views, great trail, perfect for exercise, then.
It even has a few benches around.
It does, yeah. And then the spirit path that you just mentioned, I think is another opportunity, because that'll pull a group of people who want like a more artistic experience in nature. You go from these like rock sculptures to rock sculptures, it's a little bit of a treasure hunt, it's a cool trail, maintaining that and also doing more communication about that, like, hey, there's this really interesting park-based nature trail that you can go to, like, take your kids, go explore, that's really fun. I think those two would fit.
Yeah, so making that trail more prominent, maybe not paved, but with a really walkable substrate and signage and all that.
Yeah.
That would be kind of the secondary.
Yeah, but so it's even, it's usable and it doesn't, and it's usable 12 months of the year. Because as you know, if you've got a mud wall over the trail, then everybody makes trails around it and so on.
And to your question about parking, obviously, we're talking about sort of park that's volunteer here, and then all the way up to where the restrooms are in that area that you pointed out, that sort of that space that got opened up by people parking right across from the restrooms. The parking we're talking about is further up here, that brings people further in, gets them in the center of the park. There's actually more shade in this area as well too, with the trees, so over here, it's just kind of nature being low and close to the salt ponds. You're not seeing as many trees as you would here, and this is an area that just allows you to get in there, get to those spaces, as well as continue on the perimeter trail that really takes you further into the area of the park that we think would be effective from a travel management and use standpoint. And it deals with that sort of overflow, overuse problem that we see right now.
Yeah.
The shade thing is a problem because when you could put in shades, you could maybe put in shade structures, but being a landfill, you have a shallow cab. So you can't have, you can't put in California oaks that have a huge long tap, for example. You can't put in trees that require a lot of water, because the last thing you want to do is to irrigate a shallow cap of soil over a landfill. I think you'll find you'll probably notice that many of the landfills around the bay pretty much have very little. So we have largely these rather non-native, I think Southern Australia and South African type shrubs and trees, because they can manage to make it there without destroying the cap or doing so. I don't know if you get what was, there was a soil depth study done many years ago, and it was, in some places it was really shallow, in some places.
Well, we're talking about all kinds of proposed improvements here. I want to ask, have we conduct any study or research like the environmental permitting process? Like when we plan for the improvements, like trail pavement improvement, adding parking lot, or even talk about shade structures, like what's the environmental permitting process due to the location of this site?
I can take that one.
Oh.
So we haven't gotten that far yet. I mean, these improvements were discussed in the master plan, but before any big construction project would occur. And it depends on how involved and how big we're talking about. That's when it would go through the planning and permitting process, and that's where you would have to do. Hopefully not, but that's where your environmental impact reports would come in, things like that.
I'll go ahead and interject here. Yeah. So, I do want to recognize, and not that we're trying to hide it, but Kayla is with our Public Works CIP team. As I mentioned, they are looking to come back to the commission with, a report on a current project. So Kayla, if you could to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Jones. I'm the project manager for the current CIP project for the park improvements. And I also manage the leach and gas improvement projects. We're on phase 2 of that project. We closed out phase 1 earlier this year. We are currently in the study and assessment phase for making, some of the materials for parking in that study. Once it is complete, we'll come back with the full assessment and determination at that time. So we're hoping to come back by the end of the year. And we'll be able to provide all the answers that to the questions. So really great questions that you all have asked, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess we'll just ask staff, so let us know when that happens. We can put it on the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you.
And then since Kayla was nice enough to interject about offering some updates, I was kind of looking at our own city website as you guys were doing your presentation. And I realized we've been kind of treating Bedwell Bayfront Parks page as if it were like any other park, which it became clear to me, it's really not. And there's so much more education and maps of trails and other more dynamic things we could do there. So I'd be happy to look into that and dive into that with some helpful information.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, because it was occurring to me that perhaps the city could link to these two brochures and to the Great Spirit Path installation, which, by the way, has been there, I think, since the 1980s,
Yeah.
way back.
No, we'd love to support that, happy to share information, we think that would be great.
I guess Tricia, yes.
I just had a follow-up question for you, is it Kayla?
Yes.
So, the gentleman mentioned we have close to 1.4 million funds possibly available. So is it just timing and getting work done one of the main blockers to executing on some of these plans, or what exactly is the, I don't mean to put it bluntly, but like, what has prevented, improvements from occurring up until this point? I guess?
Yeah, so back in 2017, 2019 or so, I mean, that's when we actually kicked off the project. It was much larger in scope, so it included the full improvement of the entrance road. However, we now have to consider sea level rise. And to consider sea level rise, that brings the cost up significantly. So in order to continue to move the project forward, we phased it out so that we can get the pedestrian and bicycle improvements completed while we're figuring out funding for the larger project that will incorporate sea level rise. So that was the really big goal, that once we figured out that we need to incorporate sea level rise along the slough, the costs went up dramatically, and that is a separate larger effort that I'm not a part of, but I can get more information if that's something that you're interested in.
And just one, perspective from us, we realized there wasn't enough money to implement the full master plan, and that's why we sort of picked the things that we thought would be most effective, lowest cost to get done relatively quickly, and sort of achieve some of the objectives that we've outlined.
And I do think there are some things that we can work on that would be helpful. For the angles of the friends of Bedwell Bayfront Park and in general, and some of the things like interpretive signage, having the rangers do enforcement or having the rangers do education, both of those things are pretty low hanging fruit. I can't promise one will be done next month or anything, but I mean, they are things that we can do without getting into the land of larger capital. And it would be very, very helpful, I think.
I'll reiterate for us too, like, we're all very willing to support those as much as we can without overstepping, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too that I think we have a great opportunity that we have. Well, first of all, I have a very heavily used park, which is good as long as we don't love it to death, but I think we've got plenty of room to improve it. We've got a great volunteer community that can really partner with the city, and I think we really need to tap into that and spark communication going with you. Part of the reason why this might not have been a priority since 2017 is the Parks and Rec Commission is kind of new. So Chairman Long's senior member, what, 2.5 years, I've been here 1.5 years, everybody else is less time on the commission, so I think we all need to want to work hard to come up to speed and keep a relationship going with this particular park. That it doesn't always show up again when you do community surveys, just because haven't really exactly been able to measure how much use is there. It's just not as visible at that park as it should be. And I also love that it's in Bellhaven, which is a part of the city that we've, or finally, I've lived in Menlo Park 30 years, we finally recognized Bellhaven And given them the resources at that side of Menlo Park that the rest of Menlo Park has had, this park is a fantastic resource for the people on that side of the city, so we really should prioritize on you know, bringing this park up to speed, and not just for the people that live around it, but for the whole of the city. So I see a really good opportunity here, and, you know, I appreciate you coming here, and we should, as a commission, keep working to stay in contact with you, especially when there's just volunteers and people that, you know, we can put to work and help us out. So,
And I forgot to mention, Patricia and I talked, that we would be delighted to take any of you collectively, singly, whatever, on a walk around the park and Benji more.
great, sign me up, so. And I actually encourage you to we get it, our email addresses are on the website, so feel free to email commissioners individually. You know, people reach out to me, and I just, you know, meet people at a coffee shop, so, you know, we're accessible. So, you know, let's keep individual dialogue going as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Brownies? Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually have one more question
Yeah.
for you, Kayla. Just a point of clarification, you said you were planning on returning back to this commission to report on the pedestrian and bike trails. I just wanted to be clear on what exactly you'll be coming.
Yes, so I will have confirmed what type of item it will be, and I'll work with Tricia on that. But when the project was initially kicked off back in 2017, there actually was a commission report to the Parks Commission. And I'll coordinate to you to get that information. So this will just be an update to that, previous commission report.
Okay, cool. And in terms of like encouraging any capital projects, city council, for example, I assume the parking lot would be a capital improvement, correct, Nick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so. I guess, does the commission have interest in maybe formulating that into a message to the council? Maybe we could, you know, combine that with something else that is on our agenda, but something to keep in mind when we convey. something.
Yeah, and I'll second that. I'm just asking again, what's the time frame for us recommending something to the council? You know, what time of year do we do that before we miss the boat and wait another year?
Yeah, you have your annual report out and update, but if you think you have enough information, and after hearing the report out from Kayla, kind of getting an idea of where things stand, that might be a good time to make a motion to recommend something to the city council. The library commission is kind of doing the same sort of thing now, where they just finished their update, but they have some other recommendations. They are recommending a study session on libraries and building improvements. So it can be done off schedule. It's not like you only have that one shot a year in district change.
Okay.
And also, I might add that all of the council members have office hours at various points around the city. And that's another nice way to go and talk to them about issues that you've had come before you as a commission. You can speak as an individual commissioner and not necessarily representing the whole commission, but you can say, this is what I've heard and this is what I think. And it would be very appreciated.
Yeah, John, Drew, when I presented for the commission in front of city council, Drew Combs, mentioned he wants to meet us. So I think each of us can schedule time with Drew, who's our official city council.
That's true. We do have an official liaison. So,
yeah. And then he's a good person for you to speak to as well. He's the city council member as well that is our liaison in Parks and Rec. And then again, our job here is to advise city council. So that's all we can do. But it is a pretty big impact though that we can have if we do our work. I'm really excited to hear from the city staff and Kayla about the practicality, what the planning is, actually what the funding sources are that we've used. I imagine that $1 million for Meta was probably used up a while ago. Or we could,
Balancing budgets.
right, or we could ask Meta for more money potentially. So yeah, all that is, I just wonder as much as we can, you know, for the next presentation.
Well, again, thank you for your presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for thoughtful discussion too as well. Appreciate it. Thank you. Hopefully we'll see you on the parks sometime soon.
All right.
Moving on to regular business, we have item E1. Approval of the August 27th, 2025 meeting. Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any comments on item E1? No public comment.
Thank you. With that, public comment is closed. Would any commissioner like to motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. There's a motion to approve the August 27th, 2025 meeting minutes. Commissioner Chenyu, how do you vote? Here. Commissioner Dawkins, how do you vote?
Approve.
Vice Chair Grass,
Yes, approved.
Chair Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
the motion passes.
Okay, next item is item E2. E2, a recommendation on the library and community services department policies, picnic reservation form and use policy, and recreation facility use guidelines. Staff will do a brief presentation on this item.
Great, thank you, Chair. So tonight we are looking for the commission to review and recommend the picnic area policy and recreation facility use guidelines policy. The department policies establish rules, expectations, and procedures for the operation and public use of department programs, services, facilities, and resources. From time to time, it is appropriate and necessary to review and update department policies or to create new policies in the interest of clarifying rules and procedures responding to changing community needs. The policies currently being available for review are the picnic area rental policy or the picnic reservation form and use policy and the recreation facility use guidelines. Going straight to the picnic reservation form and use policy, Ashley has the item up. This policy and form provides information necessary for groups to reserve both Burgess and Nealon parks, the picnic areas. The policy also includes amenity and fees associated with utilization of each park. That within these updates, there are clarifying statements, picnic area event availability updates, the timeline for booking weddings and just general for residents and non-residents, capacity updates and event amenity usage specifics. So those are kind of the general updates. As mentioned, it's general chromatics, specifically, residents can reserve 9 months in advance, non-residents, have 6 months to reserve. 6 months in advance to reserve. Yeah, we removed the fax number, because now we're taking everything through our online system. Updates in general, so everything is correct for the master fee schedule. And the numbers and fees related to that. That statement that was asterisked was regarding Nealon and the closure, so we are proposing to remove that. Right now, our capacity for our internal reservations is 150, anything beyond that goes to the permitting office. So we updated that as a proposal. One thing to make clear here, the red line for food trucks, there was a little confusion in that area, so we'd like to propose that we keep that statement. So food trucks should park in designated areas, so just want to recognize that. 10-foot tents are available. Are not available, can be used. Anything larger needs to go through permitting police department. And I wanna just recognize we are working with our permitting office a little bit more on some of these events. Beer and wine needs to go through permitting office, and that is the gist of the updates. We included an additional map, I think it was the Neon map. And then there's the form and no changes there. So with that, that is the recommendation for the picnic area, policy and form. Additionally, the recreation facility use guidelines policy, the one change in that policy is just an updated statement to request that any signage be obeyed. And that is the one update for that policy. And that concludes the report. We're happy to answer any questions.
Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any public comments for item E2? No public comments.
Thank you. With that, public comment is closed. Dave?
Wait, my other question is, just out of curiosity, why, so I just had a birthday there. I want to go with beer and wine, but so what, you need a special event permit now, correct? Is there a cost there?
I'm not, I don't know that if there is, I can get back to you with the specifics, I'm sure it's online. With that, all of our internal policies are online and available in person, but there's an ABC permit that you have to get through ABC.
I thought, I'm sorry, Tricia,
That's okay.
I thought that. Beer and wine, as long as it wasn't in glass containers, was allowed in the parks. I know you have connections, so that's why I'm saying, but maybe I'm wrong there, so that may be something that we
Clarify,
can clarify.
sure.
But, if we find that that's something different than what we have in the policy, we can also bring it back next month.
Right.
Next month, and do it again, if we got something incorrect in this fact.
I was just curious, you got the insurance, but it not get a permit.
Yeah, and I don't think that just the presence of beer and wine is necessarily triggering to get a special event permit. Hard alcohol, I know, is, but I think when I was reading the staff reports, we'll have to look into that a little bit and come back with the answer to your question, or you'll be able to find it in the next 30 seconds.
For the hours, do we have like the minimum hours required?
In the policy, let me take a look. Don't know that there is, in the building policy there is, but I don't know if there is in this.
Yeah, I mean, for the picnic areas and parks. Is that just, I'm curious if like someone want to book like a birthday party and may run 2 or 3 hours, but someone just accidentally book 1 hour in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So it will decrease the efficiency and
Yeah,
of the usage, yeah.
yeah, there's no limit here that I see, I don't know that having just a 1 hour, picnic, would be a problem for other users. I don't know that we're at that capacity or that need to have it available. Nick, did you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, while you were asking your question, Commissioner, I was looking at previous answer,
Thank you.
previous question. And we do have an FAQ page on the picnic areas, and it says, beer and wine can be served with a certificate of insurance, but no glass bottles and no hard. So that's the answer.
So you don't need that permit.
You don't need a special event permit to have beer and wine at your picnic area, but you do need the certificate of insurance.
I guess I have a question, so functionally, how is this enforced? We don't have a park ranger, but
Yeah, so functionally, if, you know, we do in the policy ask that they have their permit or information, the receipt in front of them. If they're asked to provide that, so if something were to come up, we could go out to the park and take a look at that, just check in. And Bedwell would be the one that we might be able to get the park, the new service to just check in, right? Even though that's not a picnic rental, that would be a larger event.
so let's say someone put a tent in, dug up the field. Who would raise the complaint? Would that have to go?
That could
On
come to
that.
our office, that could go to, it depends on where it goes, right? It could go to Parks or Public Works Department, or it could go to PD. And then we would look into it, or the permitting office, and then we'd have to look into it, yeah,
We could use Act Menlo Park at this point.
correct.
And chances are on the weekend, it would go to the police non-emergency. That's usually where I've seen if there's been any sort of conflict or booking question, that's usually where it goes first. And then the dispatchers will call me. We're trying to go to Trisha, and say so-and-so's locked out, or so-and-so says they have a reservation.
Someone's there, you know.
That's usually the flow.
And what was your experience? You said a birthday party? What was great? It was great. Yeah.
We just got the liability thing, we emailed to someone, I remember who. No one ever asked us, but it was a 1-year-old birthday party. We didn't even have any beer. That's all we got. It was fun, but
I have a question. I was actually kind of surprised to see the statement that renters are responsible for cleaning the picnic area and required to remove all garbage from parks and premises, which I love, but in theory, but in practice, I don't see that happening a lot. And especially like if, you know, it's a busy weekend and let's say there's a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday situation where I don't think garbage is even maybe being picked up. So by Sunday morning, like crows are at it, seagulls are there, it's all over the place, and then the new group comes in, so how are we enforcing that? How do we encourage people to, you know, hack out what they brought in rather than just trying to shove it into the.
And that's, you know, that, so with the garbage, we would hope that, you know, somebody would report that and then we would look in, work with our public works to try to figure that problem out. And it has come up before, enforcement, you know, as we have a new park ranger, service, you know, we can look at how we potentially expand that. There, it is extremely passive at this point, you know.
We've discussed with the public works team and with Harrison, who's taking on a lot of these outdoor rec areas now, about requiring folks to get those sort of portable garbage cans that you can get from ecology and things like that, but we haven't put anything in place yet. I think we were putting a lot of things in the park ranger basket. It is an annoyance, and we know that because we heard it from the Sunday renters. And I see it when I'm walking around the park sometimes too.
Yeah.
So we just don't, we haven't got a good solution for that yet, but we're certainly aware of it.
Yeah, I don't know how you combat it because maybe some kind of deposit policy. Make them have some skin in the game to clean up after themselves, or again, just really encourage to take out what you bring in, but that's more behavioral. When people have to pony up some cash, it seems to be more motivated, especially if they can get it back if they clean up after themselves.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, the insurance is for someone gets hurt, right?
it's only if you have beer or wine,
Oh, okay.
or like, there's like gem houses or something.
Yes.
You also get insurance, yeah.
It's kind of a liability coverage, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I would love, I think that's a great idea, Bill. Michelle, sorry, about. The deposit, yeah, so.
One way to get people to care, they seem to care when their wallet's involved, so.
The thing I wonder though is like, how would you prove, because like when we
Yeah.
cleaned up and left, someone immediately took the table, so it wasn't like
Right.
someone from the city came and like observed that we like.
Yeah.
Did it all.
Because, I mean, maybe we can have them post a picture. Times kind of to picture or something, I don't know, it's something we could look into, I think it's an idea worth exploring.
Yeah, if you're okay with the current version, we can definitely, we can, move forward with this, we can definitely look into the option of a deposit policy and, it would be similar to what we do in the buildings potentially, so we do have that. Place.
I guess moving on, we have, next item is, item 10.
Actually,
With the vote.
sorry,
Oh, sorry about that.
if we could get a vote to recommend the changes to the policy.
Awesome.
Oh, I vote for it, but also.
I'll second the motion.
We're moving this number.
All right, there's a motion to recommend the Library and Community Services Department policy for picnic reservations and use policy at the recreation facilities guidelines. Commissioner Chinese, how do you vote? Commissioner Dawkins, how do you vote?
Approved.
Vice Chair Grass, how do you vote?
Yes, approved.
Chair Lee, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Commissioner Sherman, how do you vote? Approved. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess now, next item is item F1, an informational item, bar visits update. Staff will also provide a brief presentation on the site.
Great, thank you, Chair. So, as it's mentioned, this is a review for the aquatics program. The city of Menlo Park owns two public swim centers, Bellhaven Pool and Burgess Pool. Both centers are operated by the aquatics partner, Menlo Swim and Sport, under contract. Just brief history or background. On January 22nd, the Parks and Recreation Commission received a preliminary draft of the 2024 Aquatics Animal Report. We did include that in your packet. We also have the updated or final report from the aquatics operator that will include in the minutes for approval next meeting. In addition, on September 9th, the City Council conducted a study session where to provide city staff with direction on actions to take to sustain and potentially restore operating hours at city-owned swim centers. City staff, following direction, is preparing for an update to council to consider the potential authorization tentatively for September 30th. The city council discussed, during the September 9th meeting, the city council discussed the 4 operational concepts that were presented to them by the aquatics operator. City staff is working with the operator on gathering the information requested by council and will return on September 20th. As a regular business item for further discussion of the options. That is the brief update of the aquatics program.
And just September 30th. Tricia said September 20th.
The 20th, 30th,
It's 30th, it's
Thank
Tuesday night. that
it's this Tuesday.
Coming back to council, and that we linked, in the staff report, I think we included or linked the preliminary report out from 2024, which was actually presented to the PRC, I think in February of this year. But we should have linked the final report, the one that was presented to council a month later in March. There weren't a lot of changes between those two, but just clarifying that we did the wrong one there. That's the right one, the most recent one, and that's the one that's linked on the aquatics webpage. menlopark.gov/aquatics. Under the link that says aquatics performance reports, that's where the most recent annual aquatics were produced.
Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any public comments on item F1? No public comment.
Thank you. That public comment is closed. We have, or we do. We have that. No.
information.
Good discussion. Anyone have any comments? The aquatics report?
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering if, where we are just in terms of the back and forth with between, the city and the aquatics operator, so, and holding our breath that we still have a continuance of service, we have a resolution before the operator, so, but
Yeah, it seems like this is above us. The city council is going directly with Team Cheaper and
Correct.
we're not an intermediary.
We definitely wanted to give you an update on where we are just in what's been happening, knowing that September 30th, it will be going back to council.
Yeah, but there will be some decisions made. So the September 9th presentation and meeting was a study session, which is, as you guys know from your work here. No actions are taken during the study session, but directions given to staff. And the direction given to staff was, here are the 4 things that the operator and staff came together and said, like, this is what the operator needs. And then council gave us some further direction, okay, go and develop these concepts and bring them back for action on the 30th. So in terms of where we are in the back and forth, we're in the middle of the back and forth. We're at the back for the 4th part at this point. And we will get more direction from the council after their discussion on Tuesday night. Bishop, was moderating the aquatics working group last night at the Wellington Community Campus. Had a lot of really good engagement with the folks there, and they had a lot of clarifying questions that we were not necessarily like, oh, that's very interesting. I don't know they were, that wasn't clear, so we spent had a really good discussion, kind of clarifying where we were at in the back and forth process between the council and operator.
no, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm so sorry I can't make it Tuesday.
No, and those
Yeah.
are posted on the same page, mentalpark.gov/aquatics. There's a link to the aquatics working group.
Right.
And, I was transcribing the notes from last night's meeting this morning, so those are all going to, actually, they're already up. I think Sean already popped them up there. So they're all up there. You can get my rough notes.
Is that under summaries of aquatic working group?
Yeah, so they're already up there, and that's basically just a transcript of what I wrote down on the big pads while I was there. So you can kind of get a flavor of it, since we don't work with those.
Fantastic, that's great, I see that. Thanks.
Do we have any other comments on this item? Okay. Next item is item F2, Library and Community Services Department Statistics and Recent Activities. Staff also has a presentation on this item.
Yes, thank you. So with this, just a quick review of all the things that are happening, and the update for the department's statistics and activities. For the August 2025 statistics, we do have an update in our statistic template to be more comprehensive, improving data usability. We are including a few items in the indoor room usage data is included, pickleball and tennis court usage, picnic rentals, field rentals, recreation participation by month, and then childcare hours of education and care, meals, snacks provided, ages of children enrolled. So those are the template related updates. And thank you, Ashley. Additionally, the aquatics operator is including their data in the monthly updates for your review. And there is a half year available this time. Moving on to events, Halloween events, very exciting time of year for us. Halloween Hoopla will be held on October 25th from 11 to 2. There will be a parade, where costume participants can also decorate their bikes, wagons, and scooters, and walk through the People Parade downtown Menlo Park. The park, will end at the Fremont Park and include carnival games, bounce houses, prizes, candy, balloons, and 2 tattoo artists with free performances. Parade starts at Santa Cruz Avenue and finishes at the park. Pumpkin Splash on Sunday, October 26th, from 11 to 1 at Valhaven Pool. And then 1 to 3 at the Burgess Pool. We will have a floating pumpkin patch where children that are registered and have tickets will be able to choose their pumpkins from the pool and decorate their pumpkins on site and also get a goodie bag. Trunk or treat. Trunk or treat provides trick-or-treaters safe and fun way to enjoy Halloween. Instead of going door to door, they're going trunk to trunk, or car to car at the Belhaven Community Campus lot, on October 28th, from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Department staff members will be involved, along with local community organizations, so that's an exciting event. Additionally, the cost of service study, Menlo Park is undertaking a cost of service study to evaluate and update cost recovery for various municipal services. Those included for library and community services are going to be part of the study. The study will assess the cost associated with providing fee-for-service activities to help inform the structure of fees in the master fee schedule. It's recommended that this is reviewed periodically. The last time that the city conducted a study was in 2017. By law, fees cannot exceed the estimated reasonable cost of providing the service. Understanding user fees can help the city gain understanding of actual costs of providing fee-for-services activities, make decisions on dedicating a funding source for requested services, generate funding needed for appropriate staffing levels, and provide transparency to city leadership regarding the cost of providing services. And the city has selected government consulting partners to provide that study for us. Club 678 is now being offered at the Belhaven Community Campus for youth in grades 6, 7, and 8. They're at the club started on September 22nd, will run Mondays through Fridays from 3 to 5:30 p.m. And then 1:30 to 5:30 on minimum days in the event room at Belhaven Community Campus. It provides a mix of recreation activities like academic support and numerous opportunities to develop leadership skills, including craft projects, mini sports leagues, and lessons in Photoshop. Youth Advisory Committee, we're now in the new session of the Youth Advisory Committee, and it did start on September 24th. Which is today. There were 34 applicants, and the youth advisor selected 14 of those applicants to serve this year. The list from those that were selected: 7 Menlo Atherton, 1 Basis Independence High School, 1 Nueva School, 1 Menlo School, 1 Bellarmine College Prep School, 2 Crystal Springs Uplands High School, and 1 Castilla School. New YAC members will advise the Park and Recreation Commission on youth activities, events, and programs, and help foster involvement in youth and municipal government and civic affairs. Meetings are being held every second and fourth Wednesday from 6 to 7:45 at Belhaven Community Campus. Costumes for Kindness, we do have a bid here at the Recreation Center in partnership with the Menlo Park Police Department. Library Community Services is supporting the costume drive from now until October 17th. Costumes should be new and gently used and fit children from kindergarten to 5th grade. Donations will go directly to Belhaven Elementary School and can be donated at the police department and at the Recreation Center here. Know your rights, libraries are a source of information for community members. The Menlo Park Library has made available the Biblio Commons list for communities seeking information about their rights and other related information and resources such as National Immigration Law Center, ACLU, East Bay Sanctuary, and Immigration Institute of the Bay Area. The list also includes a link to Know Your Rights, San Mateo County Executive's Office, which provides highly relevant additional resources, including a rapid response hotline, links to red cards from the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, and the cards are available in person at the library. And that concludes our updates from the department.
Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any public comments on item F2? No public comment.
Thank you. With that, public comment is closed. Any commission members like to comment about that item?
I have a quick question about the kind of drilling. I'm looking at the pickleball tennis court utilization. Is there any data for Nealon Park pickleball court? I see Kelly Park and I see Nealon Park tennis court 1 through 4. Sorry, actually just 1 and 2. And
I think it's for the rentals only.
oh, that's rentals. That's not the sign up system. Got
Oh,
it.
sorry.
Okay.
The tracking for drop-in usage is extremely challenging, so
Oh, yeah.
we're not there yet, but yeah, it's for rentals.
Or does that mean the reservation?
Correct.
Oh, that is a reservation
Yeah.
system, okay. And so it looks like that we're not, the Nealon pickleball courts aren't, that we're on the rental reservation system, because I don't see TV. Okay,
They're dropping.
right, you got it, okay, thanks.
Any other comments? Next item then is item F3, the tentative agenda calendar. Ashley, do you have any public comment on this item?
Are there any public comments on item F3? No public comment.
Do commission members have any comments about the agenda?
Yeah, I have a request on the agenda, I'm wondering if we could move the tennis and pickleball update forward one meeting to November 19th. Partly, I'd like to give a little space to the Parks and Rec facility master plan review and consider tennis and pickleball after that. Also, I might not be able to make it October 22nd. I'd like to be there on the 19th. So, any objections to that at all, or is that would work out okay for staff?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Seems like, will we be getting? I know city council is discussing the aquatics program imminently, but would it be helpful for us to get also an update on October 22nd? Or I guess it'll all be out there, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So we discussed it.
yeah, because there's gonna be fallout, right? Because
That's a great idea. Yeah. Very good idea.
So we have tentatively for October 22nd, the Parks and Recreation Facility Master Plan, and then aquatics. Yes, okay, and then moving tennis and pickleball to November. Any other updates for October?
Yeah, it's November.
Correct.
What up?
Person here, so
Okay.
As soon as, yeah, thank you. I've been checking in with Taylor to see when, she actually reached out to me first, so as soon as they're prepared for their report out, she'll reach out to me. Thank you, and I'll put it on.
Yeah, unscheduled.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
yeah, and we were expecting to host Mayor Combs here at some point. Would that be, I don't know the schedule at all, so.
I'm gonna have a look in to see when the mayor might be able to come in as the council liaison. I'm wondering, if, just, I wanna acknowledge that for November, we have the approved the PRC 2026 meeting calendar. Would the commission be interested in having an item for October to discuss the calendar so that it can be approved? The next meeting, or we can do both the same month, whatever works for the commission. 2 months, like one to for the discussion and one for the.
Sounds good.
Also looking at the unscheduled future topics, is Flood Park actually completed at this point? Could we get? So
Not
be
quite, not quite. The
not
other
quite.
phase has been completed. I think the phase that had improvements to one of the playing fields. And also to some of the picnic areas, because they had, an open house that we provided some soccer instructors to, I think, a couple weekends ago. Flood Park, which is along, it's Bay Road, right?
Yeah.
It's Bay Road, and which is a county park, but it's inside their parks. Great.
So is the state keeping the playground and everything?
No, it's managed by the county, even though it's located within Menlo Park, it's kind of an odd one-off situation, but a lot of people, because it's in Menlo Park, ask questions about it here in the commission, so we'll keep you guys about what's going on there. There is a website, which I think is called Reimagine or Realize Flood Park. If you probably search that phrase, they put their audience there as well.
My daughter's a big fan of the pump track there.
Pump track, right, that's how we would have pump track was, first of all, they said they were gonna build a pump track.
Yeah.
It's a pump track.
So it's a asphalt track, circular track, but with a lot of bumps and dips in it, and you go on it with your bike or mountain bike. And it's kind of, you can basically jump up and down these ramps and bumps, so yes, it's actually it's a sport as well. And looks rather dangerous to me, but my daughter loves it.
It's, you can do all of that without really pedaling, because you sort of drop in. And you get enough momentum with the hills that it keeps you going around those curves and things without having to like pedal furiously.
Looks like a lot of fun.
We can definitely invite the county to come out, do a presentation on updates.
Any other comments on the agenda? All right, moving on to item G1, individual commissioner reports. Would any commissioner like to make a short report out on items of interest to the entire commission? I guess a quick mention about the 5K. So Justin, myself, as well as Commissioner Capel, met about the 5K, kind of still finalizing a lot of details. Actually, we should have mentioned that to the Friends of Bedwell. This 5K is gonna traverse Bedwell Front, so I believe that's being finalized. That is the final plan. It's gonna be intended as real 5K. Rather a mixed 5K, so there's a competitive portion as well as like a family portion. So a lot of those details are being finalized, but I think we're on track with making that event a reality, so yeah. More to be discussed in the future about that. Any other comments? All right, then the meeting is adjourned at 8:18.